Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. It's Dr. Ben here, and it has been a minute. So, um, what am I doing here? Well, I wanted to come on and share with you my healing journey, my healing story. To be honest, I haven't really planned this all out. It's kind of going to be a stream of consciousness sort of thing, sharing what I've been dealing with the last few months and how I am back to what I would refer to my normal 100% healthy self. But it has been a journey, and I learned a lot and experienced a lot, and feel like I have a lot to share from that journey. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm also going to be sharing with you guys a little update from Alter Health, as well as an update from our new company, my new company, Vis Foods. So without further ado, let's dive in. And just to reintroduce myself to any listeners who might be new, who might have been sent this podcast to listen to, I'm Dr. Ben. I'm a naturopathic doctor. My expertise is in lifestyle medicine, specifically nutrition, and also mind body medicine. And as I'm reintroducing myself to maybe people who are familiar with me, I have been called and drawn more and more and more into the mind body medicine side of things. And I feel like my whole life, if you will, has been resisting that pull, that call. Frankly, I don't know where that resistance is coming from, but that's one thing that I have experienced and learned and gained insight to through my healing journey here is that call. That's kind of part of my healing has been listening to that call. So, anyways, yes, I would like to reintroduce myself as an expert also in mind body medicine because I am. I am both expert in terms of the science and kind of, theory of mind body healing, but also the practice of it. So, without further ado, let's dive into what the heck was going on with Dr. Ben the last few months. So starting this story, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I know some of you are probably interested in like the nitty gritty details. So I'll do my best to balance things here. So starting back, I guess really the beginning of August or mid August or so, Dr. Suzanne and I were on vacation in the summer to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where we usually spend a couple few weeks or a month or so. And anyways, while I was up there, I didn't feel great. I felt run down and I was out of my element. There were different, it was vacation, right? But you know how sometimes on vacation, like all of the rushing and weight of life kind of catches up to you. So I kind of felt that for a week or two while I was up there and just wasn't my tip top healthy self. Came back to home to Colorado here and just got knocked out. Specifically knocked out with symptoms of like an upper respiratory infection sort of thing, sore throat, stuffy nose, congestion. And this is, to be honest, like just sidebar, it's healthy to get sick. It's healthy to have these sort of symptoms. And when I'm talking about sickness, I'm generally like to use quotations because sickness is the body's healing response. So it is kind of an oxymoron that we get sick because actually getting sick is healing if we allow our symptoms to be expressed fully in that sort of way. So, anyways, I was quote unquote sick with this upper respiratory stuff, sore throat, cough, headache, and just incapacitated with fatigue. And usually, when this sort of thing happens to me, I have those kind of symptoms for a day, maybe 2 days max. And then I'm like back to my normal healthy self. And this time around, I was pretty run down. Like I said, I was kind of stuck in bed, didn't have an appetite. And that was very uncharacteristic for me. So I was patient. I was like, okay, this too shall pass. And it didn't pass. And my sore throat and congestion and headache kind of went away. And I was still totally incapacitated, essentially bedridden with fatigue. I would kind of try to go for walks and hikes and get outside and I had just immense weakness. And it felt really weird and honestly really scary. And Dr. Susanna and myself, we use our medical thinking knowledge and brains. And, Dr. Susanna was like, you really should test yourself. You should get tested for, well, one thing, just kind of get basic labs done and rule out anything crazy. But also, our minds were kind of going to EBV, Epstein-Barr virus, because of course I had like huge swollen tonsils, and EBV is known for incapacitating sort of fatigue. So, anyways, I did get my EBV titers tested, and they were super duper high. I had a full blown Epstein-Barr virus reactivation. Sidebar: maybe sometime down the road, I'm going to have a more deep unpack of terrain versus germ theory and viruses and virology, and questioning really the existence of viruses, and if they do exist, if they are capable of causing symptoms in and of themselves. But in any event, my labs showed this EBV reactivation in full force. So at least like my head was able to comprehend, like, okay, there's something going on here that's tangible, that's measurable. And it gave me an appreciation for people who seek that sort of affirmation of what's going on in their body, and how important and helpful these kind of lab tests can be, even though we don't like to put too much weight and emphasis in them. But they have their utility, right? And they can be kind of affirming, but also, and this is really, really important, and I'm going to dive deeper into this. Sometimes when we get a diagnosis from a laboratory test, that just kind of solidifies in our mind that something's wrong with us and we're broken or out of balance. And the fact of the matter is, of course, our bodies are dynamic and self-healing. And if we allow that self-healing process to flow healthfully, then that's the way that we ought to be. But sometimes when we have that diagnosis, especially if we go to a doctor and spend money, and he's wearing a white coat and he's got glasses on and a stethoscope and he's measuring things and looking at things with fine detail, for a lot of people, like even unconsciously, I'm not talking about just like the conscious perceptions that we have. A lot of people, that just, reaffirms that there's something wrong. And the term for this is the nocebo effect. Not the placebo effect, which is like taking, a fraudulent fake treatment and then feeling better. But the nocebo effect is when someone says, "Hey, this is wrong with you." And then, you might be experiencing symptoms, but those symptoms get more ingrained or exacerbated or solidified and anchored into the framework of your consciousness. So, anyways, that's a really slippery slope with all the whole diagnosis, laboratory stuff, but it can be helpful, especially with kind of in a place of understanding, like I'm talking about. Anyways, yeah, EBV reactivation. I was like, okay, we can treat this, right? We can support the body in healing and recovering from this. It's something that, on the bookshelf back here, Susanna has a great EBV resource book for supporting the body with supplements and things. I'm grateful to have, of course, her support and an expertise with this, and also some other mentors and healers that I'm connected with. Anyways, I was on a regimen of tons and tons of supplements. I took more supplements in the last 2 months, say. I kind of stopped taking them about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but there were 2 months where I was just taking more supplements than literally I had ever taken in my entire life combined. It was crazy. And I'm talking about mainly like high dose vitamin C supplements, some other, quote unquote, antiviral sort of things like monolaurin, and other antioxidants to kind of support the clearing of the toxicity from breakdown stuff. Vitamin A or beta carotene, carotenoids. What else was I taking? I should have had my list here, but zinc, of course, quercetin, um, a number of things. And honestly, like the moral of the story here is kind of nothing. None of this stuff matters. None of the physical stuff matters, and we're going to get into what matters most. But anyways, I was strict with this regimen, kind of taking tons of supplements. And also, for those who don't know, I'm a super active sort of guy. I spend a lot of time outdoors, pushing my body and, you know, training for life, I like to say. I don't like to race or compete necessarily, but I like to feel good and strong. And all of that energy, I was like, you know, at first it's like, oh my gosh, I can't move my body. I can't go outside. I can't do what I love to do. And then, of course, my priorities totally shifted. And I was like, had this wake up call like, that doesn't matter. Like, doing stuff outside, physically, whatever, that's important and helpful. And like, yeah, we love to experience the vitality of our body, but there is more to life. There are our relationships, there's our life itself that we can just gain more appreciation for. So, really, like in an instant, my priorities shifted from like my physical body to my mental, emotional, spiritual body and my relationships with my family and Susanna, and just like realizing like this is what matters. My quote unquote like health and the strength of my body, that's totally secondary. So, anyways, that was a helpful kind of mindset shift and priority shift. Um, but where was I going with this? But also, you know, in shifting that energy that I used to expend in outdoor pursuits and physically, I totally redirected all that energy and intention towards self-care. So for example, if I spent like an hour and a half or 2 hours a day on my bike or hiking or running or whatever it might be, I would literally spend an hour to two a day on self-care, specifically like, meditation, quiet time, rest, and also breath work, sauna, baths, just total deep relaxation, which quite frankly, like I'm pretty good at relaxing, but usually the relaxing is kind of like doesn't come from a really relaxing and spacious energy. It's more of like, okay, I've got 25 minutes to relax. Like, let's relax hard for this period of time. So that was really good for my nervous system. On top of like this whole supplement regime is just focusing on relaxing hard and spaciously. And in the context of that self care, I realized that, backing up just a little bit. So I want to talk to you guys about really what my main symptoms were at this point. Like I said, it was like incapacitating fatigue, hard to get out of bed. And for those who aren't really familiar with metrics like heart rate variability, these are things that I track and keep record of and kind of tune in with, mainly through my wearable Garmin watch here, which is totally not perfect, but it's definitely good biofeedback, and I think that it has become better over the years. And in any event, my heart rate variability went from very healthy, always super consistently healthy, to very unhealthy, very low. And my heart rate, my resting heart rate, generally is between like 40 and 44, here at altitude where we live, in Colorado. And my resting heart rate was like 55 to 60, um, regularly. And when resting, I'm talking about like totally sleeping. Like that would be the lowest that my heart rate would ever get. It's like 55 to 60, which for a lot of people is like pretty normal. But for me, very abnormal. And so that all pointed to my vagus nerve, which is the nerve in our bodies. Well, it's a cranial nerve that comes out of our brainstem from both sides, and it runs down the side of our neck and then goes into literally every single organ in our bodies to control the parasympathetic branch of our autonomic nervous system. That's our, detoxification processes in the liver, the digestion processes in the gut. Of course, like our pancreas and gallbladder are all innervated by the vagus nerve, and maybe most profoundly, our lungs. And the cool thing about our lungs, is that our lungs are, of course, are under autonomic control, meaning that we breathe automatically. But breathing is the one autonomic function that we can also override. We can consciously override how we're breathing. And that essentially sends signals through our vagus nerve to our brain that we're either in a state of stress. If we're like hyperventilating, you can literally create stress chemicals in your body just by changing your breath into a more shallow hyperventilatory state. And of course, on the other hand, we can override and create peace and calm in the mind and nervous system by breathing deeply and slowly, and specifically lengthening the time that we're spending exhaling. So a lot of people think about breath work and breath practices as just like taking deep breaths. And actually, if we're just like inhaling deeply, that inhale is under sympathetic stimulation. So it's a sympathetic nervous system activation to inhale. And then the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for the exhalation, which is really the flexing or contraction of our diaphragm muscle, which exhales and moves all of our air out of our lungs. So that parasympathetic exhalation should be intentional and slow. And the way that I see it is that it's kind of like flexing and going to the gym for the diaphragm, and specifically for the strengthening and fortification of that vagus nerve um, activity, which will therefore, like, change everything within our nervous system through the breath. So anyways, my vagus nerve was all out of whack. My heart rate variability was almost non-existent. My digestion was also super sluggish. Definitely more constipated, and maybe like one bowel movement a day instead of two or three or four, without getting into too much detail. Yeah, like again, that resting heart rate was a huge indicator that nervous system was totally out of whack. So anyways, the self-care, I was full force, like, totally dedicated to self-care. And I want to take a little bit of time to explain like what that looked like for me, and what I think were the most important ingredients to the self-care. Because like I said, here I am fully 100% healthy, and I don't really attribute my healing to the supplements, even though I took supplements and maybe that helped to clear some things, toxicity wise, or balance the immune system, inflammation. But like what was really going on, was the dysregulation of my autonomic nervous system. So the things that I was doing were sauna and cold plunge, which is kind of like it's also, that's kind of like a shock to the nervous system. And then like the cold plunge, like the sauna heats up or raises your heart rate, the cold plunge lowers your heart rate. So it kind of was stressing the autonomic nervous system in different sort of subtle, gentle ways. So I was doing that regularly, a few rounds each day. And I was also engaging with some powerful breathwork practices. And I'm no stranger to breathwork. I've been really, intrigued by breathing my whole life. No, but in all seriousness, I was like, I would have identified myself as a yogi like 10 plus years ago, and used to study this stuff and practice this stuff very regularly. I'd even say religiously. And so I'm no stranger to it. But I hadn't really had that sort of breath work practice with the intention and with the depth and consistency that I did during this self-care period. And I'm still engaging with the breath work practice because it feels really good for my nervous system. So I can share in the notes here a link to a video that was shared with me by a friend, like a guided meditation, guided breathwork kind of practice that was super helpful for me. And these were things that I was doing, but like the guided nature to it was super helpful. So I'll if you're really more interested, you can of course click and experience that. But I'll just kind of describe what that breathwork practice was. So there were lots, and of course, like just calm breathing, et cetera, et cetera. But that won't really do it. just like breathing calmly won't really shift your nervous system in a won't really trigger the resetting of the vagus nerve and the autonomic nervous system like I'm talking about. But what did and what does is are more intense breath hold practices. So taking an inhale and kind of pressurizing the breath within your lungs by engaging locks in the throat and at the root of the body. And there's like yogic Sanskrit terms for this kind of stuff because a lot of this breath work, pranayama stuff does, of course, have roots in ancient yogic practices. But in any event, these breath holds essentially put the nervous system and the lungs and the diaphragm under immense pressure, much more so than we would otherwise experience in, normal, regular breathing on copilot or on autopilot. So overriding these normal nervous system functions with breath work was super helpful in resetting my nervous system, and those breath holding practices. Essentially, the way I felt about it, it was kind of like taking my diaphragm to the gym, and like increasing the weight on the bar that my diaphragm was lifting. And in so doing, again, that diaphragm being under autonomic nervous system control from the vagus nerve, I was able to reset and rewire and rework the whole function of that autonomic nervous system, which was, for whatever reason, EBV, whatever was going on, totally dysregulated. So I realized that so many people who are dealing with these sort of chronic symptoms, and that's the other thing, like as weeks tick by and months tick by, I was like, oh my gosh, I have chronic fatigue. Like I kind of like came to that realization, like I've got chronic fatigue. And oh my gosh, I'm like a chronic illness person. Like what happened to me? Like I was a healthy person. So I there was kind of this moment of panic, and back to that nocebo effect. I worked really hard in my mindset to just not let myself go down that rabbit hole of I have this or I am this. My body was really struggling with healing from this or that, which was a long process. And maybe it didn't have to be as long of a process as it was, but it was a process. So rather than identifying I have this, I am this, the self-talk with the help of Susanna at times was my body is healing from this. Like that's what's happening. And I can't just say that and like be done with it. I've got to say it and feel it and believe it and trust it. And to be honest, I feel like my understanding of the body, my education and training and experience with seeing people heal and experiencing healing myself, even on different levels, that really helps to give me trust, like full trust that my body is healing. And that full trust is the most important thing. And I think if it were all to be boiled down into one little nugget of medicine that really did the trick for my healing, it was trust. And so many people have, because as time goes on with symptoms, so many people lose the trust in their body's ability to heal. And that's where things get ugly or sticky, because as we lose that trust, then things just slide worse and worse downhill. So my message for those who are here to gain some insight and inspiration for your own healing journey, my message is that your body is healing, whether you see it, feel it, and or experience it, or know it, or trust it. I'm telling you that it is. And what you are experiencing is part of that healing process. Um, Even though it's not along the timeline that you want. And certainly my healing was absolutely not on the timeline that I wanted. I wanted to feel better in the 24 to 48 hours that I was used to feeling better when I, quote unquote, got sick before. Anyways, the trust, the acceptance, huge. The breath work, huge. The supplements, part of it. Um, I want to talk about this whole phenomenon in mind body medicine called tension myositis syndrome, which, if you're not familiar with TMS or tension myositis syndrome, it was kind of this term was created by Dr. John Sarno, and maybe you've heard myself or Susanna in the past talked about TMS and Dr. Sarno. He's like a total hero of mine, and we've got a bunch of books on the shelf from him. Of course, healing, it is the most healing book, but also the most popular book is Healing Back Pain. And that book has literally helped millions and millions and millions of people heal heal sustainably. I'm not talking about like feel better for a day or for a week or a month or something like that, but sustainably heal back pain. And in Dr. Sarno's career, he found, as his career and experience and observations professionally progressed, he found that this TMS, tension myositis syndrome, was totally not restricted to back pain, or neck pain or spinal pain or musculoskeletal pain for that matter. TMS can be experienced at any point or system within the body. And he later called TMS just the mind body syndrome. And even though tension myositis syndrome, mind body syndrome, it sounds like it's a medical problem. It sounds like it's something that you need to fix or heal. But the fact of the matter is, Dr. Sarno is very good in articulating that TMS, or the mind body syndrome, is a totally natural and universal phenomenon that every human being experiences. And even though we experience these symptoms physically in our bodies, we are so it's so natural for us to think that there's something physically wrong, because it's like, okay, I've got a backache. There must be something wrong in my back. And then, of course, you go to the doctor, they scan your back, give you an x-ray, MRI, CAT scan, whatever it might be. And there's like something that you can see that's wrong. Um, but the fact of the matter is that thing that was wrong pre-existed the back pain, and your back pain will feel better while that quote unquote thing that's wrong, that anatomical anomaly, still exists. And the same is true within the other systems of our bodies. Okay. So people who receive a diagnosis of chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia or EBV reactivation or mold toxicity, whatever it might be, the symptoms that we are experiencing may be correlated with some biochemical imbalance in the body. But we need to think long and hard and question whether that biochemical imbalance is actually causing the symptom, or if the symptom is due to something else and that biochemical imbalance is kind of manifested through some other fundamental cause. So, of course, I was going to say like Western medical or conventional medical, but this is not limited to or restricted to Western conventional medical thinking. This is just like human nature to think that if something feels wrong physically, then it has a physical cause. And the most well-meaning, brilliant, brightest chiropractors, functional medicine doctors, acupuncturists, naturopathic doctors, surgeons, whoever, like people who are well-trained, well-meaning, brilliant people in their fields, they're generally only trained and have expertise in seeing things through their worldview, which is, for the most part, the totally physical thing. So we need to, my argument, and what has helped me immensely in my life personally with healing and also professionally, we need to open our minds to the fact that our bodies are multidimensional. And of course, we've got physical flesh and bones, and we've got biochemical processes that take place that we can measure, and we can have our labs done, and of course we can have x-rays and MRIs done to like show us what's going on in our bodies. But we need to think and look outside of that physical box. We need to also understand that we are absolutely multidimensional in the sense that we've got an emotional body that is as physical as, if you will, and by that I mean it's as real, it's as tangible as our physical body, even like in a different dimension, right? We also have mental and spiritual bodies that are deeper beyond our conscious understanding and awareness, but they are so real. And I think most people conceptually understand that. But we need to start thinking about these bodies that we have beyond the physical as being the fundamental root cause of what we experience in the physical. Because if we're trying to treat things physically and only physically, then we're only going to be managing the symptom at best. So, this whole process of TMS healing or mind body healing, it involves radical surrender, acceptance, radical like self awareness and self study. And At the end of the day, like the thing that really moves the needle and makes and makes us shift towards disease to peace and health is like radical acceptance of ourself, our process, where we're at in our life. So for me, the message that I was meditating on, and thinking about, for lack of a better term, was, am I okay? Is life okay? Will I be okay with this state of being, my state of illness, my state of symptom? Can I be okay with myself being this way forever? And the immediate impulse response to that is no. I want to feel better. And it's, of course, natural. If we're used to feeling great and then we feel anything less than great, we naturally want to feel our best. But as long as we're totally attached to feeling that way, then we're closed off to the lessons and learnings and insights that are available to us from the universe. I don't know. I'm kind of fumbling for words here, but hopefully you're picking up what I'm throwing down. So we need to be totally open minded to what's available and let ourselves heal and learn on deeper levels beyond the physical. So for me, I don't know if you guys knew, but 2+ years ago, I was experiencing some kind of chronic lingering knee pain. And I was signed up for like a ski race in the wintertime. And well, the knee pain was predated that, but anyways, I had this thing going on, and I knew it was TMS. I had read all of Dr. Sarno's books, and I took the dive like deeper and deeper. And what came forward for me was I need to like embody this on a deeper level. And what I was called to do, like my response to that, was creating a course for TMS healing. So I did this 2+ years ago. I like sat in front of the camera and talked about all these fundamental principles of TMS and how to understand and recover from this tension myositis syndrome, this mind body syndrome. And it was polished, and I spent hours and months, like literally, creating this TMS healing course. And then I felt great. And then in doing so, like I felt great. I think I felt great because I was so immersed in the information that my belief system totally transformed, my understanding transformed, and it just became the second nature way of thinking and understanding for myself to like know myself as this multidimensional creature. And anyways, like that, the creation of this TMS program was part of my healing process. And I created it. And then like, I think a few people have gone through it. It's got kind of just word of mouth thing, but it's just been existing there. I haven't told hardly anyone about it. I hadn't marketed it in any sort of way, but it's there. So pause, sidebar. If you are called to understand this and dive deeper into this, really what the course is kind of just distilling all of Dr. Sarno's life knowledge and experience and learnings into what I find to be a more accessible, at least for me, right? Everyone's different. Maybe someone is just likes reading Dr. Sarno's books, but this is a deeper but also more accessible language and understanding that I think is more applicable to our world today, not in the 1970s and 80s. Because I think that as we evolve, like our brains are like, well, what about this? What about mold toxicity? What about EBV reactivation? What about EMFs? What about all of these things that are environmental? Like we just have a tendency to think like, okay, that's gonna kill me, that's gonna make me sick. And then through our belief system, we point our fingers to all these things physically, and maybe they are issues, but the real issue is our mindset, our thinking, our belief system. And in changing that, we change everything. So at the end of the day, my healing from EBV reactivation, I'll continue to put quotations around that EBV reactivation because I don't really know what the heck was going on, but that was measurable on the labs. What was really going on though was another TMS thing, another mind body syndrome thing. And that is just a natural part of being human. It's not pathological. It's not anything to criticize or judge oneself over. It's part of being human. So if you're sick, if you're struggling, you're human. And we can feel and be more empowered as we traverse and transcend the sickness and the struggle. And it can be less intense and easier and more graceful and empowering. It doesn't have to be such a struggle. That's really the message at the end of the day here, is one of hope and empowerment. And also for those who are looking for a little bit more guidance or support, I just want to put myself out there. I'm here for you. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, if you want to check out the TMS course, I'm here for you. All right. So that's the long and the short of my healing journey. I feel like I'll probably go back and listen to this since it's been so long since I've recorded a podcast, and I'll probably think like, oh, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about that? That's just the nature of how I roll. But there's always something more. So I'm sure I forgot a whole heck of a lot. But in any event, I do want to close this podcast episode. It is a podcast episode, and I'm going to put this up back on the Alter Your Health podcast. For those listening elsewhere, you can, of course, subscribe so that you won't miss an episode, even if 2 years pass, because that was the last episode that was recorded for me. Was literally, well, it was 18 months ago for me. Susanna recorded an episode August of 2023. For me, it was May of 2023. So anyways, it's not going to be that long. I'm going to be more consistent with this. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but moving into like an update from Alter Health, the main thing that we're doing at Alter Health is we're doing the cleanse. We're super stoked on the seasonal cleanses. If you haven't yet experienced the cleanse, get yourself. We don't have the registration open, but get yourself signed up for the next cleanse, which will of course be in the new year, winter cleanse time. And on that note, the other thing that we're super stoked on is Vis Foods. Some of you know that I've been working hard. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I think helped to manifest my symptoms of EBV reactivation, was just the stress, for lack of a better term, of like all the new things that come with starting a new business in a new industry that I'm completely ignorant of and have no experience with. I was/am totally scared. I'm totally, flying by the seat of my pants. And frankly, I don't want to fail. And so a lot of that tension and stressful thinking, even though I feel good, like it's not like, oh my gosh, Ben, how do you feel? It's like, I feel good. But my ego, spirit, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, has been under a lot of tension and stress. And that has manifested, or did manifest, in these EBV, vagus nerve, parasympathetic nervous system kind of dysfunction that I was experiencing. So I had to get really curious about that. But without going, yeah. That being said, how do I transition into this? That being said, yes, I did create this new company called Vis Foods, and our new product is available now. We're still in soft launch for the rest of the year here. We're going to launch things up in January with a challenge. We're really excited about this. I'll keep you guys posted. about what that's looking like. If you're not already on the Alter Health mailing list, you can do so by going to alter.health, www.alter.health. Um, we don't actually have, I guess we do have a Vis Foods mailing list as well. So www.visfoods.co to learn more information about this product. Green Force, your daily nutrition enhancer. I'm not going to do a whole spiel, but it's a greens powder. And we created this because we saw and feel and experience that there was absolutely like a gap in the market. Even though there's hundreds of products that are available, none of them, they all have their holes. They all have their deficiencies. So we wanted to make one that was perfect. Easy, right? Easy peasy. We made it perfect. We took out all the fluff. It's the most nutrient dense thing on the planet. Like literally it is. So you can add this to water, which is what I've been doing, as well as a smoothie or yeah, we'll have to get creative to find other ways to bring this into your body, but it's essentially minerals and vitamins and phytonutrients. And really it's minerals. You guys, most people are doing okay actually with vitamins, and phytonutrients are just kind of like bonus for your body. But most people are deficient in minerals, and specifically minerals in water. Um, this is not green. So usually I'll be drinking, not usually, but for demonstration purposes, I probably should have put Green Force in this water. But anyways, most people are deficient in minerals. Most people are also deficient in water in their bodies. So we're hoping that this product will help people get more minerals, and in mixing it with water, hopefully more water in their bodies as well, and specifically water in their cells where it needs to be in order to keep you healthy and vital. So that's a little Vis Foods update, Alter Health update, and Dr. Ben update. We'll see what the future of this podcast looks like, but I am hoping to come on somewhat regularly. I don't know if it'll be every week, every couple weeks. I definitely hope that it's more than every month, to kind of share what's going on and share insights into mind body medicine and really what I have discovered to be the most important thing in our health, which is our mindset. So I think the last thing I want to say is I want to apologize. I don't know why I'm feeling called to do this right now, but I feel like a lot of our work at Alter Health has been so physical focused. We've been talking about nutrition and eating whole food, plant-based meals and, perfecting one's diet. Like that's important. It is. Like we've got to remove the toxins from our bodies and from our lives. And the majority of toxins come in through our mouths, through our food, so we've got to be mindful of that. And that's just kind of common sense, hopefully, at this point to you. But we have to also, just to reiterate, we have to also think more deeply and broadly. We have to open ourselves to what's going on beneath the surface. So I feel like, yeah, again, I kind of want to apologize if I have in the past swayed people to the physical, to their nutrition, to their lifestyle, without inviting people to also go deeper into inquiring what's going on beneath the surface in mind, in thoughts, in belief systems, and working to unravel and untangle that, which is a deep process. It's a process that only you are capable of doing. And again, if you need any more guidance or direction or support with that, I'm here for you. So that's it for today. Thanks for your interest in health and healing. Thanks for your presence in your life and in making this world a more healthy and beautiful place. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Peace and love.